Hey guys, Jim Daneker here with a little bit of an unconventional video. I don't typically do review videos, and this really isn't going to be a review either, but I am a reverb snob, reverb junkie, reverb connoisseur, aficionado, whatever you want to call it. And most of the time when I'm looking for reverb, I mean, of course, I grew up in the 80s. Any of you know about Arcade Orchestra, this big, huge 80s project I'm working on. I tend to gravitate toward the stuff that I grew up on, you know, Lexicon, Eventide, you know, the big iconic rack units from the 80s and into the 90s. And I still have a rack of that stuff, and I use that all the time. And most of that stuff, like the high-end Eventide and Lexicon stuff especially, you still can't find that in plugins to a degree that really matches the hardware. So funny enough, a couple of years ago, I heard about a pedal, stumbled on, I think, on a YouTube video about the Specular Tempest, which is, to this day, one of the best reverbs I've ever heard for really cinematic, you know, soundscape type stuff, especially for synthesizers. A couple months ago, though, this is 2024, right now we're in September, almost October, I heard about the Meris Mercury X, which I have right here. And I don't know if you can see that. It is another guitar pedal. At least that's what it's intended to be. And I stumbled on some videos, and one or two of those were guys using it with keyboards. So I reached out to Meris and asked if they would send me one. And I told them I would be using it in a little bit of a different use case than most of their customers. I think everybody tends to use it as a guitar pedal. I'm a keyboard guy. Obviously, I'm surrounded by synthesizers, and I thought I would take a look at it from more of a sound design standpoint when using it with keyboards and even some things like drum loops and so on. So I haven't been able to go extremely deep with it yet. I've had it for a couple weeks, but I've just been swamped with other stuff. But just yesterday, they released their editor program. There's also a companion pedal called the LVX, which is really focused more on delay. But just yesterday, the editor dropped for Mercury X. And so I had already created a bunch of presets, which I'll talk about here at the end of the video. Everything you're going to hear in this video, for the most part, is stuff that I created for my uses. But now that the editor came out, it makes it so much easier and faster. I mean, the pedal is fantastic. It's really easy to work with. You know, it's really easy to get around, but man, there's a lot in there. It's a really deep pedal. There's a lot of, I don't want to say it's menu divey because it's really not. It's broken up really well, but there's a lot in there. And, you know, it's just way faster to edit on the computer. So I took the day yesterday, created a bunch of new presets in addition to the ones I already created. And I just thought I'd walk you through a couple of them. This is, again, it's not a review video. I just want to give you an idea of what this thing sounds like with keyboards. And I'm really going to use it with just 2 or 3 different sounds because those sounds are good at showcasing the strengths and weaknesses of reverb. So let's dive into some sounds, and then we'll jump back out and I'll give you my, my initial conclusions. So here we go. Okay, that is, that's a patch called The Portal. And it's just got a ton of stuff going on. So let's dig into that. We've got pre-delay, which is set to reverse. We've got the Prism reverb algorithm, and it's pretty cranked up. Dynamics, we've got the freeze algorithm going, and all this stuff's happening at the same time. There's nothing in the preamp, filter, pitch, or modulation sections, which is kind of crazy because there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening even though there's only 3 things going on in this particular patch. The mix is set at 79%, what is it, 79, 71%. And what's really cool, just yesterday, in fact, the editor came out for the Mercury, which is really, really a game changer because you can edit everything here, you know, directly on the pedal. But man, it's hard to get, well, I shouldn't say it's hard to get around, but you know, there's a lot of menu diving. You know, if I work, whoops, see, I'm not familiar with this as much as I need to be. I got to go into edit mode here, and then you've got all these different pages. There's the preamp page, the filter page, pitch page, so on. On the editor, it's all right here. It's so much quicker and easier to get to. So I'm going to do all the editing as much as I can on screen here. So this is, let's go back to libraries. And I'm going to switch back to this Yamaha SY77. It's one of my favorite vintage digital synths. It's kind of a continuation of the DX7 series. But let's start back at that patch called the Portal. And the thing I like about this patch, it's got that 80s, DX electric piano sound. But it's good for demonstrating this pedal because it really lets you hear what the pedal is doing without a bunch of, overtones and all that kind of stuff. So it's bypassed right now. Let's turn it back on. So yeah, there's just a ton going on there, but I want to just step through a handful of different patches and just let you hear a few things that I've created. Most of these are sounds that I created or presets. Others are factory patches, and I'll try to remember which is which. This one is a factory patch called Two Worlds. So this is a good example. When I first got this pedal, I was a little surprised. I wasn't really impressed with the reverb algorithms. By themselves, if there's not much going on, let's go into the editor here. Yeah, let's make sure everything else is off. Let me turn off the compressor. I'm gonna turn off the pre-delay section. Standard, let's take that to 0. Let's see, dry blend is all the way up. And reverb should be, let's turn it off. Okay, so just hearing the reverb, let's step through a couple of the algorithms. This is Ultra Plate. And I think the thing that got my attention, I typically do all my reverbs either with high-end plugins or with some of my high-end 80s and 90s rack verbs like Eventide, Lexicon, and so on. But a couple years ago, there's a pedal by a company called GFI Systems called the Specular Tempest. And I'm not sure how I found it, but started hearing demos and I was blown away because that thing is one of the best reverbs I've ever heard for big, dreamy, atmospheric stuff. So let me let you hear that really quick. Bypass the Mercury and turn on the Tempest. So you can hear it's just got a really wide, beautiful decay. It doesn't have any metallic resonance. It's just really, really... It's just a gorgeous long reverb. Here's one of my other algorithms in there that I like a lot. So, you know, when I'm looking for that endless, dreamy soundscape kind of thing, I've always loved the Tempest. So when I heard the Mercury, let me crank this up. That's the Ultra Plate algorithm. Here's Cathedra. Crank up you can hear this, the Tempest is still going. So by comparison, the stereo image is not nearly as wide, and it just kind of, it just didn't really impress me a whole lot. What I figured out later, though, was that the algorithms in the Mercury are really dependent on the other things that are in the Mercury, like the modulation section and the modifiers and dynamics, the preamp. All of it works together. And so all that to say, when I first started checking this thing out, I'm like, I don't know if I really am impressed with the reverb algorithms. And by themselves, you know, some of them, they're not, you know, they're not my favorite. They don't really do a whole lot for me. But again, we'll get into how you bring them to life. So let me just step through a few. That's Cathedra. That's Spring. You can really hear the spring aspect of that. Very spring-like. Here is 78 Room. And these 78 algorithms, these are taken from the Chase Bliss pedal. I think it's a 1978 pedal, which is modeled after the Lexicon 224. The old Daniel Lanois reverb. Now, again, this one, not really my favorite sounding reverb by itself. It can be pretty heavily tweaked, which is good. So even there, let's see, diffusion is set to medium. You can modulate, you can put low, medium, or high modulation on the reverb tank. So right there, that gives it a lot more modulation and character, texture. So let's go to 78 plate. Let's go to 78 Hall. See, now right there, that, if you're listening, hopefully on good headphones or monitors, the stereo image on that one, it almost sounds like something's out of phase. So that really threw me for a bit. I had to kind of figure out what's going on there. And yeah, see, diffusion is one thing that plays a heavy role here. Medium diffusion, high diffusion. So, because really what reverb is, it's just a series of digital delays stacked on top of each other and smeared and all that kind of stuff. And when you have diffusion set low, you're gonna really expose those delays. But yeah, again, by itself, I'm like, why is the stereo image so narrow and it sounds kind of phasey? Well, stay tuned, we'll get into that. Now, Prism, I really like this one because this has a whole bunch of extra stuff. You've got dispersion. Now we're getting somewhere. This sounds a little bit higher quality. Sounds more, actually this kind of reminds me of the old, you know, the 80s reverb, the Yamaha SPX 90 series and its descendants. And that's not a bad thing. It's definitely its own particular flavor. But, you know, you've got modulation built in here just on the reverb section. Let me switch to a different synth. Let me switch. I'm going to play my Oberheim OBX8. I'm playing it all through Logic. But still, just for the sake of comparison, let me put the Tempest back on. It just goes on and on. Now I've got the decay time all the way up. But again, it just, the character of the reverb on the Tempest is just gorgeous. It's perfectly smooth, it's textural, but that's not the point of this video. We will get there, so hang on. So there you go. I mean, just playing around a little bit, and I really still just have the reverb algorithm engaged. There's dynamics, preamp, filter, pitch, modulation, the modifier section. There's a whole lot of stuff here that's all contained in this pedal. So it's really a lot more than just a reverb pedal. And a little bit of knob twisting, and you can really start to get some of those big, epic, washy soundscapes. So that's just one patch, and that's a factory patch. So let's get into some of the other stuff here in no particular order. One of my favorite features of this pedal is the hold modifier button. It kicked it up an octave. It does all kinds of things. You can have it set to pretty much modify anything. Actually, it's taking the sound down an octave while I'm holding it, and when you release it, it lets it back up to the original octave. That's kind of cool. Into Dust, what is that? That's more the nice kind of big atmospheric thing I was talking about. State 224. I created 3 or 4 different variations on the Lexicon 224 idea. Let me go back to the SY77. These are just those big Daniel Lanois kind of reverbs. That's state 224. Here's state 225. It's minor difference in the tone on that one. Let me go down to my Juno 2. I put a little arpeggio sequence together. So there, now we're making it darker. You see what's happening there is I brought the dispersion down, so you're hearing those delays a little bit more as echoes. So there you go. Anyway, that's state 224, 225, whatever I called those. Vintage Haze. That's kind of cool. There's our dry patch. Turn it back on. So you hear what it's doing. It's putting like a pitch warble kind of thing on there. We've got vibrato in the modulation section. And you can see where I've put that. It's in the preamp section. Now, if I put it somewhere else in the chain, let's put it all the way down here at pre-tank. Actually, it didn't switch. There we go. So you can hear the difference it makes depending on where you put it. Let's back off the depth a little bit. So that kind of gives it that cool vintage characteristic. This is the Cathedra algorithm. Let's go back to the Juno. Oh, why is it not playing? I'm not sure what's going on there. Oh, I think I sent it some. It must have got some bad data from another controller that's in the background. Oh, that's what's going on. The modulation thing is on the input stage of the algorithm. That's why it was messing with the sound. So that's with the pedal bypassed. Let me turn it back on. So anyway, that's Vintage Haze. Dystopia, if I remember right, I think. Yeah, this one is putting a really big octave drop on part of the sound. You can hear how it kind of comes in underneath. Really, really powerful on good speakers. You hear that lower octave sneak in? Let's try it on this sound. So, moving on, Aurora echoes. Let's actually change to a different sound here. Here's deep and wide. Now, you can hear on this one, it's a true stereo signal path. So because the Oberheim, the panning per voice is completely left or right, the reverb's only gonna be on the right. Now it's on the left. So let me mono the Oberheim. Whoops, wrong input. There we go. This patch is a good example. Unlike my initial impression where I thought that the Mercury X really wasn't keeping up with the Specular Tempest, it can, and it actually can do a ton of things that the Tempest can't do. And again, I come from a place of, you can't see it right now, but I've got this whole rack of, mostly really high-end reverbs from the 80s and 90s, and there are still no plugins that can really do what some of these do. There are some great plugins out there nowadays, of course, but when I want those big, lush 80s kind of reverbs and soundscapes, I tend to either go to that rack or to the Tempest. But once I started hearing some demos of the Mercury X, I thought, man, there's some amazing things in there. Now, again, all the demos out there for the most part tend to be guitar players. And that's the other thing I found, that when I started running synth stuff through this, I'm like, it just doesn't sound as good as what I've heard on all these YouTube demos. And it's because things, reverbs take differently to different sources. Guitars, I think, are a lot more forgiving with reverbs, or vice versa. Reverbs are more forgiving of guitars. But with synth stuff, it just, depending on the texture, if you've got something that's pretty bright, that's going to reveal pretty quickly whether a reverb algorithm is grainy or whether it's smooth. And so, my first impressions weren't great. I really had to start digging in and creating sounds for myself. But once I did, I realized, man, that the Mercury X, it's got some stunning capabilities. So let's check out a few other things here. This is called Diffuse Prism. That's a nice, bright, almost, again, like an SPX 90 kind of reverb. Really, really bright, almost metallic. Switch back to the... And again, that shows that despite that patch really just being all about the reverb, I did a lot of tweaking and got that algorithm to sound really, really good. So my earlier comments about being concerned with the reverb algorithms, it's just a matter of rolling up your sleeves and getting familiar with, you know, what's going on here. Large hall, diffuse splash. Now that one has a good bit of pre-delay, so that's why the sound blossoms a little bit later. Diffuse tempest. This one is I kind of modeled this after the specular tempest. It has a lot of the same character, but very diffuse in its it's got that pre-delay kind of blossom on it. Let's go back to the Oberheim. Okay, now, this next one, AMS DMX plate, plus plate. So one of my favorite reverbs of all time is the AMS RMX 16. That reverb was all over the 80s. It's an iconic sound, but it has a sister processor that was really more about delays called the DMX 1580S. That box was also all over the 80s. The biggest place you heard it probably is Phil Collins. That unique signature sound of Phil's voice was almost always because of the DMX 1580S. And so I wanted to create a sound or a preset in here. And actually this one's more about the reverb than the delay, but it kind of models that AMS RMX 16 with almost a non-linear decay. Okay, the next patch, this is a really cool factory sound called 7 sequence. I just modified it a little bit. Hard to explain what this one does, so I will just play it, let you hear it. So yeah, this one's got a lot going on. This one has, let's see here. It's got obviously some pitch stuff going on. It's got the polychroma algorithm happening. Change that just to hear if we went to micro shift. Changes significantly. So it's doing this stepped sequence. Really, really cool. All right, I'm gonna start going a little faster here. Cream Dream. Diffuse pans. Thing I like about that, a lot of these patches I've got set up to kind of pan left to right or right to left. In the context of a track, that animation is a lot more interesting than just a straight up, you know, reverb or delay. It gives it some movement. So that's cool. Night Wave. Kind of like a speed ramp LFO. Yeah, man, lots of possibilities with LFOs and the what do you call it here? The I'm sorry, I can't remember the terminology. Modifiers. It really is kind of a endless playground in terms of stuff you can do. Sounds on the way in before it even hits the reverb. Envelope half speed. Night Flies, this one's kind of cool if I remember right. Wash pan. Some of these wash presets I made. That's got kind of like a delayed attack. Premonition. Now that has something like, so what happened to my attack? If we go into the edit mode, I think what we find happening there is, yeah, in the dynamics section, which is set to at the input stage, it's got this swell, which, let me turn that off. Kind of, you know, really ideal for guitar players, but so that gives you the capability to kind of soften the attack of the sound that you're working on, which is cool. Chaos Theory. Haunted Wash. Okay, next up, Phil's Gate. This is meant to mimic the classic AMS nonlinear reverb that was used all through the 80s. Made popular probably by Phil Collins. And here's what I ran into. This is where I started discovering one of my biggest issues with the Mercury X. You'll hear that it kind of comes and goes. Here's a perfect example. When I play this arpeggio from the Juno 2, like, what happened there? It really doesn't behave like a traditional gate that is supposed to always pass audio regardless of the input signal. The Mercury X feels like it's listening for a certain level, except that it's just not consistent. Now see, now it's being consistent, which is really frustrating. You hear that? Yeah, like the levels aren't changing, but the gate isn't consistently opening. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I talked to the I forget his name now, the guy who developed the algorithm for this at Meris, and he was telling me that it's definitely not a conventional gated reverb algorithm. So apparently it works well for guitar, but it's not consistent for drum loops and arpeggiated synth stuff, which is a shame because it really sounds great when it works reliably, but not sure what's going on there. Now it will, let me trigger this drum loop. So now there it works fine. So I'm not sure what's happening. Let me turn off the compressor on that, see if that makes a difference. Yeah, it's making a fool of me. So there it's working fine on that particular drum loop, but on others I've tried, it just doesn't work. But this Juno pattern, that's a good example because it just is completely inconsistent. I'm not sure what needs to happen there, but hopefully they can fix that because it sounds great when it's working. Moving on, Constellation. What's Constellation? Okay, Faux Tempest. This is my attempt to get the Mercury X to sound as close as possible to the Specular Tempest. Just that really beautiful, big ambient reverb. Sounds great, just regal and big and all that good stuff. Gravity Well. So that's kind of that same idea, but it's got this octaver thing, this lower octave happening. Yeah, very, very cool, really textural. Magnetosphere. Yeah, this is cool because I gotta change to another preset to cut that off. It just keeps going, and you can hear the analog tape saturation and the vintage stuff happening. Trying to see what's going on there. So you've got this decimate and warble control, age parameter. Crazy. There's a lot happening here. Let's turn the feedback down so it doesn't keep going on forever. Yeah, that's cool. So you hear what's happening. I mean, there's so much going on in just that one patch. The sky's the limit, man, for creating all kinds of textural, you know, washes and atmospheres. Uplift, this does some cool stuff. You hear what it's doing? It's uplifting your sound. That's cool. Dark 224, this is kind of a Lexicon 224 vibe, Daniel Lanois. Classic gate. Again, you know, the gated reverb thing, it's just not sure why it's not consistent. Anyway, weirdness. I love that. It's doing this like degrading thing to the sound that's an octave lower. Yeah, that's cool. Let's see, diffused edge. Smattering. So another thing, I mean, obviously you're hearing this. This thing is not just a reverb pedal. It's also quite a capable delay engine. You've got all this stuff that you can do in the input, analog tape saturation, like a tube preamp, a solid state preamp. I mean, the delay stuff. And then just in the delay engine, my goodness, you can, it's called pre-delay. You've got a standard delay, you've got a reverse delay. In terms of type, you can do digital, bucket brigade delay. You can do magnetic tape delays. So, man, just a lot of possibilities. Spinning room. Got the panning thing happening there. Falling away. Kind of pitch dropping off there. What else we got? Space nausea. What's that? Okay, Gristle Mod. This is wild. This is a factory patch that I modified a little bit, and that's killer. So it's got like a bit crusher on the input, regardless of what the reverb's doing. Explore that a little bit. So if we go into the preamp, excuse me, not preamp. Where is it? Filter. It's not the filter. Pitch, lo-fi. Here we go. This is the modulate section. So it's got hazy. Almost like it's a bit crusher meets FM synthesis. That's cool. All right. Let's just change it. Let's go to vowel mod. Oh yeah, this you can see what this is. Basically mimicking the human voice. Tremolo. You can mono tremolo, stereo. Yeah, lots of possibilities. Gristle Mod 2. Fireflies. That's doing obviously the initial delay thing, and then kind of an eventide, like pitch factory type deal. Okay, Tape Symphony. So that's bypassed. Cool. Okay, Mavs K. This is a factory patch. I don't know if Mavs is a person. That's cool. It's got like a bit crusher on the reverb. So that shows that you can, again, you can change the order of all these effects as well. So you got that bit crusher and tape simulator, all that kind of stuff. You can put it just on the input signal so that it doesn't matter where the reverb is, or you can just apply it to the reverb. Very cool. Upside down. Kind of borrowed that from Stranger Things, kind of, you know, weird sound design. What happens if we run that sequence through this? Yeah, okay, not ideal. Yeah, vintage style effects for days. Let's see what else. Pretty eerie. Let's see, we already did the portal, but just to revisit, man, what a cool patch. Ghost Machine. Okay, Fifth Dimension. So at the core, there's a pitch changer on here, adding a fifth. Plus there's some bit crushing in there. And let's see, let's wrap up here with the last one or two, Into the Ether. Aural Echoes. And last but not least, Toto Scattered. So there you go. That's a quick skim through a bunch of different patches I made, and let's jump back out and talk conclusions. Okay, so you've heard a bunch of sounds that I've created. First things first, if you're interested in these patches, I may release them. Just let me know down in the comments. I don't tend to sell my stuff other than my keyboard sounds. There's a product called Backstage Pass, which has a bunch of different sample libraries, virtual instruments that I've created based on all my vintage synthesizers. But I've never really done patch sets for keyboards or other gear. But I might make an exception with this because I feel like I've created a bunch of stuff that is really compelling, especially for synthesizer guys. So what do I think of the Mercury X? Like I said in the beginning, I really, really like this thing. I think it is a unique sandbox. Like I said a little bit ago, it goes way beyond reverb. I mean, it does have, it's obviously focused on reverb, but with all that other stuff in there, the pre-delay section, the preamp section, the modulation stuff. I mean, it really is a deep, deep well, and there's a lot of creative potential with it. The more creative programmers out there are going to have a field day with this thing because it's really, really stunning what you can do with it. So I want to tell you about some things that I don't like. The mix knob, it is extremely exponential. Most of the difference is made in the very last little bit of travel. It feels like it should be more linear instead of exponential. Same with the pre-delay knob. If you're trying to work in milliseconds, it's almost impossible with this knob to get precise, smaller values. It tends to jump from 10, 20, 30 milliseconds all the way up to 600 milliseconds really fast and early on in the knob travel. So I wish there was an option for more linear curves with those knobs. I wish that the overview screen, the 4 parameter values that you see when you change a knob, I wish that there was an option to let that screen stay longer, because what happens is you turn a knob, you see those 4 values, and they go away in like a second. So I wish that were tweakable. I wish you could have a little bit more of that screen before it goes away. There's also no input or output metering anywhere on the pedal. You have to just use your ears, which is fine, but it would be nice to have the option to have dedicated input-output meters, at least a screen that lets you see that stuff for setting levels properly. And one of my biggest problems with the pedal is the gated reverb algorithms. They just don't work consistently or reliably. I think I understand what they're going for, especially if you're, a guitar player. It probably is fine with that. But when I've tried to send it, consistent drum loops or arpeggiated synth patterns, a lot of the time it's not catching things consistently. So I don't know what the logic is there, but I really feel like it needs an alternate algorithm for gated reverbs, because they do sound fantastic when you can get it to trigger properly. So that's a big one. Also, when you're not working with the editor software, if you're out on a gig and you've got the pedal on your pedal board and you're creating a new preset and you want to save it to a new location, there's really no way to see what you're about to overwrite. You can choose a new preset number, but it doesn't show you the name of that preset. So it's kind of guesswork, and you could get into trouble overwriting, who knows what. So that could be improved so that you you know, don't accidentally overwrite something that you want to keep. And that's about it. Not a whole lot of negative. It definitely could use a little improvement, but it's brand new. The pedal just came out a few months ago. Already the editor software, I mean, it's pretty flawless. I've been using it for 24 hours now, and it's fast, it's efficient, it's well thought out. You can have two completely different libraries next to each other so that you can drag and drop patches in whatever order you want. It's really well done. And last but not least, Meris is a small company. It's just 2 or 3 people. I think it's 3 people. And they are really, really nice folks. I had some issues early on that I didn't quite understand for what I was trying to do. And got them on the phone, had a great conversation with them. Just really, really cool to support small companies like this. They are making absolute kick butt gear, and I hope to see more from them. I think they're really onto some cool stuff. Sounds amazing. Again, this isn't a review. It's more of an initial hot take, you know, whatever, just a quick look at some of what I've been able to do with it. And I'm looking forward to more. There's a lot of potential with this pedal. So thank you, Meris, and look forward to doing some more. Hope you've enjoyed this. Yeah, be sure to click like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a YouTuber, but it does help. I'm trying to build a channel that is fun and compelling and all that good stuff. So hope to do more soon. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.